This is the 20 Minutes of Influence podcast with your host, Greg Jameson. Influencer marketing is the process of identifying, researching, engaging, and supporting the people who create high-impact conversations with your customers. On each episode, I talk with industry leaders, business rock stars, and internet celebrities who contribute their knowledge about influencing others and growing your influence. Welcome to the 20 Minutes of Influence podcast. I'm your host, Greg Jameson. This is Season 2, episode number 2. Last week, we talked all about how to get seen, to get found on the search engines. This week, what we want to talk about is now that they found you, we want them to click on you. So the title of this episode is Get Clicked On. And that's really what we want to discuss today. They found you now. They've seen you, that you showed up on the search engine. What makes you become the only logical choice for them to click on amongst the choices that are displayed on the search engine page? Well, let's start out by using an example here. I did a seminar recently, and I actually showed some results here where I did a Google search for house painter. The first one that came up had no reviews. The second one had 68 reviews with an average rating of 4.9 stars. And the third one had 12 reviews with an average rating of 4 stars. Now, there were some others, but just assuming that you've got these three choices, which one of these would you be the most likely to click on? Now, if you're like most people, you would have chosen the second one based upon the number and the quality of reviews. He had the most reviews with the highest average rating. Without even reading the reviews, that's the one that you would gravitate towards. So what we want to do, obviously, is get more quality reviews. Now, some people have said, well, how many do I need? Now, the answer is that it depends. You know, I've had people say, well, you need 100 reviews. No, you don't. It totally depends. In the example that I just gave you, the person that had the most reviews had 68 reviews. If he's got 68 reviews, you probably need 69. You need one more than what he's got. If all of your competitors for a particular keyword have 5 reviews, the reality is you don't need 100. You need to simply have more than what your competitors have. And those reviews have to be quality reviews. So the thing that's interesting about reviews is that they will definitely help you get clicked on. In this particular case, it is the reviews that are driving whether or not someone's going to click on you. They become the only logical choice. So how do you get these reviews? Well, there are a number of ways to do it, but the simplest way, of course, is to simply ask your customers to give you reviews. Now, some people might say, well, I don't feel comfortable doing that, or my customers won't leave reviews or whatever. The reality is that most people will leave you reviews if you ask them. Now, you may want to consider whether or not you should incentivize somebody to give you a review. For example, I have an auto mechanic that puts a sign up in his shop that says that show us your review on Google or Yelp and we'll give you a 15% discount. That's basically an incentivized review. Now, what he's not saying is it has to be a 5-star review in order to get this. If you do that, that kind of goes against the terms of service of Google or Yelp. But the fact is that you can ask your customers and you can even give them a reason for leaving you a review. The only thing that you cannot do is to say, uh, I will pay you X amount of money to give me a 5-star review. Now, all that said, we've talked here a little bit about how important these reviews are, but the question also becomes, how frequently do you need it? The stats show that 85% of people will believe an online review as much as they will a word of mouth or a recommendation from a neighbor or a friend. That's pretty powerful. Online reviews are as important as a personal recommendation. However, 77% of people have also said that reviews that are older than 3 months are no longer relevant. What this means is that you need a constant and steady supply of high quality reviews at all times. So you need to have a method to go out there in order to get this constant and steady supply of reviews. A great way to do this is to use some reputation management software. Web Stores Limited actually has one such program. There are other ones out there, but a reputation management software, one of the things that they will typically include is a process known as review gating. Now, what review gating is that you automatically send out a review request, typically by email, to your customers, and you give them the opportunity to review your product or service. And if they give you a positive review of 4 or 5 stars, then you come up with this automated thank you note that says, hey, we really appreciate you leaving us this review. Would you mind posting it on Google or Facebook or Yelp or whatever review sites you want them to post it on? And they just click on it. It copies the content over there to the review site and it posts it publicly. On the other hand, if they leave you a negative review, they give you a 1-star review, again, an automated message pops up that says, hey, we're really sorry that we didn't meet your expectations. We'd like to make this right. Could we schedule a phone call with you, or whatever you want the message to be? This gives them the opportunity to vent, to express their frustrations without posting it publicly. So they've vented their frustrations. You have intercepted that bad review before it gets put out on a public site and allows you the opportunity to make it right. So that's something that most reputation management software will do, and it is a good way to get more 5-star reviews while mitigating the negative reviews. All right. That will certainly make it so that people are more likely to click on you when you get these positive reviews out there. But the other thing that affects whether or not somebody clicks on your listing on the search results page is the title and description that is presented to them. Where's that information come from? Well, Google will actually attempt to grab that information. It takes a look at the meta tags that you have supplied on your website. So the meta tag title and the meta tag description, Google will take a look at that on your web page. It may or it may not choose to utilize that information. It may grab information from the content of the site itself, or it may grab content from any number of other places, and you basically have no control over what Google shows as the title and description on the search results page. However, there is something out there called rich snippets. And basically, a rich snippet is a term that's used to describe the structural data or the structured data markup that the site operators can add to their existing HTML, which in turn allows search engines to understand what information is contained on each web page. And when present, Google utilizes this information to produce better search results. The really cool thing about rich snippets is that you can include images and you can include the exact description that you want. So if you've got a WordPress website, for example, there are plugins out there that allow you to insert rich snippets onto each page. Since Google actually indexes pages, not just websites, you would want to put these rich snippets onto every page of your website. Include an image in your rich snippet. Include the title that you want to have Google display and include the description that you want to have Google display inside of your rich snippets. And as a result of that, when people are sitting there looking at the search engine results and they see an image associated with your listing, they see a description that specifically matches what they're looking for, again, they will be more likely to click on it. So those are the two primary ways that you can get people to click on your website. Get more quality reviews and get a title and description out there that matches what they're looking for and utilize rich snippets to do that. So that's what I've got for this week's episode. If any of this has resonated with you and you are not already subscribed to the podcast, I really ask that you go out to Apple Podcasts /iTunes or wherever you consume your podcast. Please subscribe to this podcast and leave us a nice quality review. We've talked about reviews here today. Would really appreciate you leaving a quality review for this podcast. It'll mean not just a lot to me, but it'll help other people find this podcast as well. And speaking of helping other people find the podcast, please share this with your colleagues that might benefit from it as well. That's what I've got. Appreciate you listening. And until next time, this has been the 20 Minutes of Influence podcast, and we'll see you then. Thanks for listening to today's episode of 20 Minutes of Influence. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please leave a review on iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you are interested in booking myself as a speaker at one of your events or are interested in any of my coaching programs, please visit gregjameson.com.